Yes, we're going to be looking at the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party, which is supposed to be the major opposition party in the country. They were in power for at least 16 years before the APC, took over power at the federal level, in 2015. Now, there are questions as to what exactly is happening within the rank and file of the PDP and whether or not they will be able to get their acts together for an upcoming election in 2 years' time. You saw that meeting, the briefing there by the governor of Benue State. It would seem, he says it's just a regular meeting that's been holding, but, there have been talks that all has not been well between the current governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and the chairman of the PDP, which is Secondus. And it would seem that the meeting there was an attempt to broker peace between the factions. Before now, there have been huge calls, from some quarters that the NWC, that's the National Working Committee of the PDP, has been largely ineffective and that they ought to resign. The arrowhead of this particular call has been none other than Mr. Kasima Febwa, who is a former Commissioner for Information in Edo State. You're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
There are others who are also saying that all is well. They just need time to be able to set things straight. We have representing that particular school of thought here, Mr. Sani Umar, who is a former spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Sir, you're also welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers.
Good morning. So tell us what percent, because if you ask those who are in the know, and if you ask those who will speak very frankly with you, they will tell you that all is not well within the PDP, and they're not particularly happy with the kind of opposition politics that the PDP has played so far. What are your thoughts on that?
Let me start by saying that in any organization, even on channels, everything cannot be 100% well here. There must be grumblings here and there. However, it is how the management rises up to the occasion on certain critical issues that matter. Now, when you come to the PDP, I have been a foundation member of the PDP. I have been the administrative secretary of the PDP in my state since 1998. So I am very familiar with the inner workings of the PDP up to this particular point in time. And I must tell you that the party is, as an opposition, has not done badly. If you take a look, the first set of executives that came was the Solomon La Executive Committee. And they were the ones that laid the foundation for the successes of the PDP in electoral contest. However, subsequent leaders of the party have also tried their best. But the Secondus-led National Working Committee has done tremendously well, coming from an opposition with 11 states to rise up to about 19 states. That is a commendable feat, at least to me. However, the major cause by opponents of the National Working Committee is that some people are decamping from the party, and that is for alignments and realignments. Politics is like that. If we have 3 governors of Ebonyi, Cross Rivers, and Zamfara decamping to the APC, let us not forget also that we had Otom, Waziri Tambuwal, and the governor of Edo State, his own state, decamping to the PDP. So it's a question of alignments and realignment. And that is not to show the failure of the National Working Committee. However, it also shows, because there are component parts of the party that ought to do their work well. We have the PDP Governors Forum. The PDP Governors Forum are supposed to do, critical job to stop their colleagues from leaving the party. So those things cannot be... So you think they're not
working as well as they ought to?
They are not working as well, because if you take a look at the complaints of those who have left, for instance, the governor of Ebonyi State lumped his blame on the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike.
We'll come to that shortly. Let me quickly take your comments quickly. First, I think it's important to establish that your own party, the PDP in Edo State, say that you're no longer their member, that they have since suspended or expelled you for anti-party activities.
That was a carriage of excess kindness. That wasn't true. My ward executive disowned that. The local government executive disowned that. And by virtue of the provisions of the PDP constitution, they are the ones who have the right to raise queries about my activities, or if they felt that it's not in line with, what the party stipulates. And at any rate, a chairman of the party, as a Gbemi, can I just sleep and wake up and issue me an expulsion? It has to go through a process. But my worry is not even about expulsion or no expulsion or suspension, all of that. I'm not an employee of the PDP national headquarters. I'm a member of the party. I'm a voter. And so that is more important to me than all these, try to rake mud where there is none. Let me just quickly take off from where Umar stopped. And that's to the point that trying to trace the historical antecedents of the party is not what we are talking about. We are in very peculiar, times where we need forward-looking, result-driven, utility-driven leadership that has his hands on the jar of rendering and delivering solid leadership credentials to be able to position the opposition party in good stead in contestation for power. You see, a democracy flourishes well when there is virile opposition, because it is an integral part of the entire democratic process. But where people are sleeping on duty, and you are saying you took the party from 11 states to 19 states, that's complete lie. PDP has 16 governors. Before now, 3 of them have exited. And when they are exiting, in the face of the monstrosity, the leadership inertia, the phlegmatic leadership of the APC-led federal government, promoting hunger and deprivations, creating IDPs all over the country, yet Nigerians who should rather rise up to the occasion are leaving your party and joining the same party of oppressors. People who have been oppressing us. So I find it very disturbing. That's why I sat down and said, come, we need to retool, rejig, and rebrand, repackage the party. This present leadership led by Uche's secondos does not seem to understand the dynamics of the modern day expectations. Nigerians need a party that can resonate hope in an almost hopeless situation that we find ourselves. And it becomes so appalling that a leadership of the party will just sit back and issue statements just go and sit down. No, you must rally around your leaders, your leaders at the various zonal level, state level, local government level. You must be seen to be going around, encouraging and ensuring that there is a way to connect with the people and the expectations of the people. I'm not into any contestation with anybody, fighting or no fighting. No, mine is to see a vibrant, viable opposition that can contest for power, provide alternative to Nigerians in 2023.
Well, we'll come back and we'll take the views of Mr. Umar on that. Let's take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us. The issues bedeviling the PDP, that's the People's Democratic Party, and as an opposition party, the matters we're discussing this morning. And we have with us Mr. Kasim Afwebwa, who was the former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, and we also have Mr. Sani Umar, who is a former spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Let me quickly throw this. They've given your opening statement on this matter. Let me quickly throw this to Lagos for some opening questions from my colleagues. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Mokwe. One thing that's, all the while, all through the time I've been thinking about this conversation, the question that comes to my mind is one of the issues that Mr. Afegwa raised, and I'd like to take him up on it. In any democracy, the opposition is critical, not just for winning elections, but for ensuring that the government in power does the needful. You would recall the kind of pressure that the opposition gave the PDP while the PDP was in office. To a large extent, many people are wondering, where is the virile opposition that you talked about, that's supposed to keep the government in power in check and ensure that the needful was done at any given point in time. So many people are now assuming that the opposition is now maybe the media or the CSOs, but they are not supposed to play that role. It's supposed to be that the responsibility of the PDP. Would you say that it's the issues that you have talked about or that you are talking about or that many people may not even be aware of that's not making the PDP to perform this virile opposition function for our democracy?
Well, thank you very much. I think everything boils down to leadership. And leadership has a lot to offer if actually you are aware and conversant with your, the expectations of the people. If you are, if you know your roles and responsibilities, of midwifing or presiding over an opposition party that has, agenda, that has projects, that has objectives, that has different issues plaguing the country, your own response to them matters a lot because that is the alternate voice that the people would naturally want to see. But I have taken a very critical, very analytical, dissection of the present leadership of the party, and I've come to the conclusion, unequivocally, without fear or favor, that the present leadership, masterminded or presided by Prince Uche Secondus and some other members on NWC, do not understand, their responsibilities, and they cannot connect the dots of a new generation opposition party that should naturally put the party in government in check. I said this with all due sense of responsibility from the point of view that even our response to issues plaguing us, insecurity, economic doldrums, unemployment, suffering, deprivations, and so many other ills that have bedeviled us in the recent past, in the last 6 years, the PDP leadership presently constituted do not seem to connect what Nigerians really want or what its role is with what the expectations are. So even my friend here will agree that the party is there. The party is bigger than any individual, but the individuals drive the party. But when that driving force is not there,
well, just one second, Mr. Febua.
You'll be a leadership inertia.
Is that to say,
on duty.
Is the silence of the PDP leadership a way of saying that the PDP does not have answers to those issues that you have raised bedeviling the country?
They have answers to them, but they don't have the political will on how to deliver the message. And that is why I'm calling for a new, vibrant, forward-looking leadership that can speak to the issues. The issues are germane. They are all over the place. There are issues that we see every day. We contend with them. You just spoke with a man, a retired Major Brigadier General, who spoke about the insecurity. He took you around, around. These are discussions that should occupy the center stage in PDP's own mindset. But when you have a leader, when have you ever seen Prince Uche Secondus on television asking questions like this, my brother? When? Have you ever seen Prince Uche Secondus engaging journalists on an interview one-on-one? Even the PDP publicity secretary should naturally be the secretary of a town union in Kogi State, and not a national party. National party playing a position where you need to be proactive, you need to deliver the message so that Nigerians will be convinced. In 2015, look at how they were eroded out of power. Because those who presided over the party at that time were weak. Now you brought in another set of leadership that has become almost sleeping on duty.
Okay.
See, I'm not in a regime of trying to issue statements to say this is our position. No. You must, assemble your brains, your brains. Let them do a workshop, seminars, provoke issues, then come to a recommendation of blueprints. market this blueprint with Nigerians, tell Nigerians what you do better, what you do differently, so that they will begin to connect to it. Nigeria is becoming almost like a one-party state, and that is what I'm afraid of. I don't want a one-party state. 3 governors existing in your party, so many senators existing, House of Rep members existing. You are just sleeping there like a lame dog.
Well, some people, well, Mr. Fegwa, yeah, just one moment, Mr. Fegwa. So, some other people, as Mr. Umar also said, that the defection has actually been a two-way street, you know, given the news that's been making the rounds. But let me ask Mr. Umar, there was something that you also said the other time, Mr. Umar, when you were talking about the leadership or the management of any organization. Yes, there will always be issues, but, you know, as Mr. Fegwa said, it's in the way the leadership manages the challenge. That is how the issue is resolved. And that's the way it will percolate down the rank and file, as Markwe also mentioned earlier. So in terms of taking charge of the challenges at the top, how would you say that has been relevant in the scheme of things? Because clearly it would seem like things are falling apart largely, and the center in the PDP is not quite holding.
Well, I think Mr. Fegwa, in his own analysis, was a little bit circumspect. And he didn't come out clearly to express the true position of things. But let me also state clearly that the PDP is not only ruled or administered by the National Working Committee. There are layers of the party. You have the National Working Committee, you have the National Executive Committee, and then you have the BOT of the party. So there are layers of the party that come together. We have also the PDP Governors Forum. All these things, all these come together, you know, marshal out plans for the success of the party. So you can't single out the National Working Committee and say that the National Working Committee is not performing. They are all performing, because performance in terms of, it is not the noise you make. If we are talking about noise, the largest person who has made any noise in Nigeria is the APC, former APC chairman, Adams Oshomole. He has made so much noise, but lost so many things, including so many elections. Now, where has the noise taken him to? It is the strategy and the direction that you take that helps you to grow the party. Now, the APC have tabled 3 issues. The issue of insecurity, the issue of corruption, and the issue of the economy. And these are the issues that the PDP is taking them up. And I think the Nigerian masses are with the PDP. What is important is to galvanize the Nigerian masses, and the Nigerian masses are with the PDP. Now, let me give you a clear view of what I'm saying. Now, in Cross River State, the governor is swimming against the tide, because Cross River State is essentially PDP. And there is no way that PDP will lose Cross River State. In Ebonyi State, we have witnessed this thing. Elechi, who was the governor of that state, didn't want this governor, Umahi, to become governor. He wanted the former Minister of Health, of Goodluck, and he couldn't get it, so he decamped to another party, and he worked against the PDP, but he didn't, because he was swimming against the tide. The people there are PDP, essentially. However, when you come to Zamfara State, Zamfara is essentially an AMPP.
Well, Mr. Umar, you know, given all that you have mentioned, my apologies, given all that you have mentioned, the question on the minds of many right now is, if the PDP, the major opposition party in the country, is as divided as it is, why should Nigerians devolve power to a system such as the PDP that is divided against itself?
No, I don't think there is any division. If there is any division, it will have now, that will be what will have necessitated because the Constitution says if there is a division, you can now cross over. But there are no divisions in the party. That is why we are pursuing our mandate in Zamfara State, because there is no any division within the PTB. However, you cannot, like I said, you can't stop conflicts from occurring. You know, take an example. Now, the major issue is the issue is between the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and his compatriot, which is Secondos. He wants him out. And that is for political expediency and for his own personal interest. However, if you take a holistic look at it, some of the problems that the PDP is facing is largely also the product of the unguarded utterances of the governor of Rivers State. For instance, the governor has attacked the elders of the party. He has threatened the party that if they don't take the national convention of the party to Port Harcourt, he will deal with them. He has, just of recent, spoken very, harshly to a traditional ruler in his own domain. These are issues that they go down with the people. So if the traditional ruler has massive support and then he is addressed like a small boy, how do you expect him and his supporters to come and vote for PDP? So even our leaders should also know what they should say to the masses. They should not, catapult all the problems and then hand it over to the National Working Committee and say the National Working Committee is ineffective, is weak, and it is not
Mr. Omar, just one thing.
Let me correct an impression.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a governor. We had a governor which we lost, Ayo Fayoshe. He was our governor when so as at the time Secondos took over, we had 19. Up to the time we had 19. We lost Imo State to courts. Otherwise, we will have had more governors than we have at the moment. So we are not talking about this. If you don't, look at your previous performance, how can you now make progress? We have now looked at our previous performance. Now, as an opposition, what have we been doing? Have we been making progress or have we been retrogressing? Now, decamping from one party or defections from one party to another is not a setback to a political party. Because these people who are decamping, mostly, for instance, Cross River and Ebonyi, are second-term governors. By the time they reach maybe 3 years in office, nobody will listen to them because they have no any use to the people. So the people will now go and do what they want to do. Now, the governor of Zamfara State, everybody knows, is looking for a second term.
Well, just one second.
Because he's looking for a second term,
let's stay on the issues that are, on the front burner right now. You would remember that Mr. Kasim Afegba had raised issues with the PDP, and which he has also invited the authorities, the FCC, ICPC, and all of that. It would seem like the PDP hasn't even responded to those issues at all.
Well, what Mr. Afegba did was to write a petition to the EFCC, claiming that the party has mismanaged what they were able to get during the sales of forms, in 2019, which is about, to him, is about 10 billion. The party has come out with a clear statement that they did not get even 10 billion. What they got was 4.9 billion. And they are ready to render accounts. They would have rendered accounts to the neck of the party. But since he has taken them to the FCC, they are willing and able, and they are not even afraid. Nobody is afraid of that allegation. It's a mere allegation. It is left for him to prove his allegations, and it is left for the party to come out clean. So that we should leave to the EFCC.
Have to wait
its own investigation.
Did the party have to wait, Mr. Umar? Did the party have to wait for a letter from Mr. Afegba or from anyone else to get, the transparency thing out?
You said what?
Come again?
Does the party need to wait for anyone to be transparent? Does the party need to wait before Mr. Afegba would complain before, the needful is done about the finances of the party?
Nobody is complaining. Only Mr. Afegba is complaining. Did you hear any complaint from anybody that somebody has stolen any money in the party? It's only Mr. Afegba that was complaining. And he's my friend. Let me state. He is complaining because he has issues with some of the party members. And if he has issues with some of the National Working Committee members, of course, he is as a free citizen and as a bona fide member of the party, he has the right to complain. And his complaint, he can take it to any level. He has taken it now to the EFCC. It is now left for the EFCC to now, to authenticate his complaint or to throw it away.
Let me quickly ask you
But
whether
please, before you ask, let me just respond to
you
a
want
few
to quickly
issues.
respond to why you're the only one.
Yes, you know.
You agree that you're the only
No,
one?
no, I'm not. I'm not the only one. You see, incidentally, Umar Sani is a good friend. We both worked at the Presidential Campaign Council. But you see, he's speaking for those who are, you know, already facing leadership challenges, those who are sinking, trying to clutch at every available flotsam to stay afloat. You know, the ship of the Secondus leadership is already sinking, and that is so. So the easiest and most convenient for them is for them to be dragging people, shifting blames, bringing in Wiki, bringing in that, that is not the issues we're talking about. The party is larger than any individual, but where there's a leadership vacuum, where there's gap, you won't be able to connect the dots of what to do.
Are you being fair to the Secondus leadership? Because some people will say that it is your first time in opposition. It's the PDP's first time in opposition. And it might take a while for the party to be able to calibrate itself into an opposition party from a party that, you know, fell out of being in government at the center.
I think there is a more serious thing that we should be doing, both as media practitioners, as stakeholders, as analysts, and all of that. And that is, we should be looking at the all-important position of political parties, because that is the leadership recruitment platform, where somebody who will be your president will have to come from. Somebody who will be your lawmaker will have to come from. Somebody who will be your local government chamber will have to come from. If the party is badly run, and not run, you know, with a system that is foolproof in terms of delivering the essentials, we are going to have problems. That's why we end up voting, you know, mediocres into government, and then you continue to complain. You see, whether you are in opposition, whether you are in a ruling party, leadership is leadership. When you give it, you see the difference. They say what makes the difference in all arguments. It's the leadership you offer. Now, the second leadership. If you won 16 governors in 2019, and 3 have left you. You had 47 senators, and they are now 37. And you have House of Rep members, you are now 111 out of 360. You are depleting your ranks every day. Should that be cheering news to you as a leader? Shouldn't you sit down and take a critical look at your shortfalls and see how you'll be able to rally around party leaders and other persons so that you can make a headway? Let me tell you this. Umar Sani was talking about the various cadres of leadership. The constitution, the framers of the constitution of the PDP knew from onset that it would be difficult for you to reach out to everybody. That's why they created what they call National Working Committee. Working committee. That means you can meet almost on a daily basis, twice in a week or once in a month, to begin to run, to attempt to run the affairs of the party. The NEC has a procedure for convoking meetings. The Board of Trustees are just advisory. If they advise and you don't implement, what happens? The Governors Forum, these are just extra, constitutional platforms. They are not recognized in any of the platforms, whether in PDP Constitution or in the Federal Constitution. What we are saying is that, as a leader in opposition, you know the issues plaguing Nigerians' mind. You know the suffering in the land. You know the poverty. You know the unemployment rate. You know the killings. You know the bloodshed. Please, what are you doing to offer succor or to even offer alternative that if we're in government, APC is doing this right now, this is what they ought to do. The 2021 budget, what is PDP's position on 2021 budget as represented in Prince Uche Secondus? There's no critical analysis of it. There are no interrogations of the provisions of the subheads, the resources, the 14 trillion that you are going to spend. How is it going to be spent, and all of that? What are the issues? If government is not performing, consistently, President Buhari has said that he's receiving less money than people who presided over the country before him. That's a lie. Because if you are selling oil at even $60 of 7 years ago is less in Nigerian value than $60 of today, because the currency is in dollars is for about 504 naira per dollar. So if you have $1,000, $1,000 from your oil, you are getting 550,000, 540,000 in Nigerian currency. So and you are going to spend in Nigerian currency.
The question is in whose market, because that's not what the CBN is exchanging. That's not the rate at which the CBN is exchanging.
Where we are buying dollar everywhere, 504, 505, 506.
Well, that is not the official rate. That is not how much the government of the day is getting it.
These are the issues that PDP should be talking about. These are the issues.
These issues have been there before even the current government.
You see, being there does not mean you should not tackle them. It's like somebody saying, go and fight corruption or go and fight armed robbery. You say armed robbery has been there before. Let's hold our hands and watch. It will consume us. We need a strong voice. We need a strong opposition voice. We cannot continue to gloss over all these issues in the name of not trying to ruffle feathers.
I'm just wondering, though, how is this? Because it would seem that you have been single-handed in and single-minded as well in your criticism of the leadership of the PDP. How has this been received mainstream within the PDP, which you criticize?
Well, as a result of my criticism and my allegations, my petition to the EFCC and ICPC, EFCC has started investigation, and as a direct response to that, the Governors Forum are meeting today in Bauchi to look at the issues I have raised. They have also met before now, where they wrote to the EFCC that the EFCC does not have power to come and interrogate the finances of the party. There are also conversations here and there. Even those whom is representing, they are reaching out to me. Please subpedal on this, subpedal on that, you know. We don't want the party to... It is not about the party. It's about those who are leading the party. I want result-driven leadership.
Do you agree? Do you agree that the PDP is not as virile as it ought to be?
If you take...
I'm just asking.
No, let me be very let me address some issues first. One, you will have heard him saying they are reaching out to him. That means he is a lone voice in the wilderness.
No, I'm the petitioner.
No, you are the lone voice in the wilderness.
I'm the petitioner.
Now, the last time the PDP governor... Now, what the PDP governor said is correct. It is not the EFCC that has the power to investigate. It is the INEC. It's in the Constitution.
Money laundering?
Yes, that's not money laundering.
It's money laundering. I'm petition on money laundering.
You don't have facts to prove that it is money laundering.
Go to EFCC and explain to them.
Well, that's why I don't want to discuss the facts of the matter, because it is under investigation. Anything that is under investigation, whatever you say will be prejudicial to the investigation, or sub judice to the investigation. I don't want to talk about...
So quickly, do you agree that the PDP is not as virile as it ought to be?
I want to assure you, Maupe, that the PDP is waxing stronger and stronger in spite of the defections. Forget about defections.
Not about defections.
Yes.
In terms of being an opposition party, would you say that it has been loud enough?
The PDP is largely assisted by the ruling party, because if the ruling party has been performing, then the position of the PDP will have been dwindling. But the opposition party is not performing, and the PDP is pointing out all those issues. Now, it is not only about statements.
Well, but I think that you've answered my question sufficiently. We're totally out of time. We have to thank both of you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mr. Kasim Afuegwa is a former commissioner for information in Edo State, and Mr. Sani Umar is a former spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council. We're totally out of time, but let us see if you can take a mail or two. This is from Demola Lalade, talking about PDP's internal wranglings. Says, party wrangling is peculiar to all political parties in Nigeria. Nigerians have been clamoring for a political reform where the internal democracy within the political parties are looked into critically, so that elections within those parties to elect representatives are conducted without any interference from party leaders. INEC should take responsibility to conduct those elections. That's from Demola Alalade.
And from Henry on the same issue, PDP should look beyond Mr. Afegwa's language but take seriously his message to wake up from slumber and the days of defeat, leave the petty party and become what Nigerians expect it to be, a virile opposition. The PDP slept when it lost 7 sitting state governors in 2015 and got lost in the wilderness since then. First step is to bring back its super tacticians who were relegated because of lack of power base. They are still very much around.
Oshinowo Kingsley is talking about tackling insurgency. I don't know, insurgency, beg your pardon. I don't know if we still have time, but we have to thank you so much for sending your mails. Yes, okay, it's on the screen now. The inability of the federal government to declare these groups terrorists. Oh dear, did they just take it away? Yes, I was trying to quickly read it from the screen, but that was from Oshinowo Kingsley. A number of others, Isioma Chigbolu Olagunjo Oladele. Yes, okay. Oshinawa Kingsley's mail is there. The inability of the federal government to declare these groups terrorists is not just disappointing, but shows complacency. They're into kidnappings, killings, terrorizing, raping, and all forms of devilish acts. To keep paying them under the pretext that they're faceless is fallacious. Well, thank you for your mails. We're totally out of time. Thank you for writing in. Thank you for being a part of the conversation this Monday morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Have a wonderful work week. I'm Ayo Makinde.